Okay, let's get started. This briefing concerns Incident 714 Alpha. The goal here is a clear overview and an initial threat assessment of the unsanctioned meeting between President Thaddeus Ross and asset Dr. Samuel Stearns. Everything you're about to hear is, of course, classified.
Here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with a situation report on the key players, then get into the verbatim transcript of the confrontation. After that, we'll analyze Stearns' motives and the leverage he used, detail the red event, and finish with the urgent strategic implications.
All right, moving to Section 1, the situation report. Let's focus on the two individuals at the absolute center of this mess.
So on one hand, we have our primary subject, President Ross, Commander-in-Chief. His story is simple. He flatly denies any kind of deal. And on the other hand, you have the asset, Dr. Samuel Stearns, a scientist we pulled out of federal prison. He claims he was working on secret government projects with the understanding he'd get a presidential pardon. This clash, right here, is what lit the fuse.
Now let's get into the confrontation itself. What follows comes directly from on-site audio. This is exactly how things went down.
So, the incident kicks off when Stearns' main claim is put directly to the president. It lays out the central conflict perfectly. A supposed secret deal, a pardon for work on some very, very clandestine projects.
And President Ross's response? Immediate, no hesitation. That is a lie. A total public denial. And that, right there, completely raised the stakes and forced Stearns' hand.
You can see the shift here. Suddenly, this isn't just about a deal anymore. It's become deeply, deeply personal. When he says, "You let me rot in this prison," you can feel that sense of betrayal. He was desperate.
And here it is. This is the leverage he thought he had. It's a two-pronged attack, you see. First, the threat of public exposure, telling the world what Ross was supposedly up to. And second, a really specific psychological jab, using this third party, Betty. The intent was clear. Hit him where it hurts, both personally and politically.
So it brings us to the analysis. Let's really dig into what was driving Stearns and the pressure points he was trying to hit.
When you break it down, Stearns' motivation follows 4 clear steps. It all starts with what he sees as a broken promise, the pardon. That leads directly to this deep personal grievance about being left to rot. And that anger is what fuels the next step, the threat of public exposure. And finally, to make sure it lands, he goes for psychological leverage, bringing in Betty to cause maximum damage.
But the confrontation didn't de-escalate. In fact, it triggered something we never saw coming, a violent outcome we're now calling the Red Event, a catastrophic physical change in the president himself.
You know, this single line from an on-site security transmission says it all. The absolute shock and confusion on the ground. This transformation wasn't just unexpected, its nature was completely off the charts, beyond anything we'd ever prepared for. This one question really highlights a massive failure in our intelligence.
Our follow-up analysis confirms it, a catastrophic metamorphosis. The thing that came out the other side is hostile, and it's putting out huge amounts of energy we can't even identify yet. Our high-confidence assessment, Dr. Stearns triggered this on purpose.
And that leads us to the final and, frankly, the most critical part of this briefing, what this all means for national security, right now.
The takeaways here are severe. First, we have a new, extremely powerful and totally uncontrolled hostile entity out there, codenamed Red, who just happens to be the President of the United States. Second, President Ross is now strategically compromised, whether those secret agreements were real or not. Third, we're facing an imminent risk of his unauthorized projects going public. And fourth, we've confirmed Betty is a major psychological vulnerability for our Commander-in-Chief.
So this is where we are. We're left with 2 massive existential questions. First, what exactly is the full scope of Ross's unauthorized programs? We need to know everything he was doing. And second, and far more urgently, what is our countermeasure for this red entity? Because how we answer those 2 questions will define the security of this nation for the foreseeable future. That concludes the briefing.